Hey everyone, welcome to Cinema Symposium
Episode 8, Scooby Doo
episode
2002.
7.
What? Scooby Doo 2002, directed by Raja Gosnell, who actually hasn't directed anything great before that or since.
He
Like
has
one
a
of them,
horrible record.
one of them being like Big Mama's House.
Big Mama?
Anyway, some initial thoughts. Nathaniel, since you seem to be the least nostalgic for it, let's jump in with what your thoughts.
I didn't really ever watch Scooby Doo much growing up, nor had I seen this movie before, so I had little to no nostalgia going into it. But it was fun. Like, there was some very good like jokes and comedy in it, and several like recurring jokes and payoffs to those jokes that I thought were very well written. As a whole, I thought the tone and all that was really fun, and just I was entertained. Like, it's an hour and a half. It's fun. It's a good time.
I got a call for a Mr. Doo.
Melvin Doo?
Nah, Scooby.
See, I remember going to Blockbuster and picking this up and being very excited to see it when I was younger, but I'm not as nostalgic for it as I was for like Monster House, so I can still look at it with more like a critical eye. Among the things that I love for this, I love the energy. I even do like the early 2000s tone of not taking itself too seriously. Honestly, I think it's a pretty fun spooky family film to watch. Favorite thing being Matthew Lillard's casting of being Shaggy.
What are you doing, man? When it came to the voice and it came to the walk, I just spent a lot of time with the cartoon. I kept watching it. I spent a lot of time. I worked with acting coaches for the first 2 weeks before we even went to rehearsal.
Get ready for 90% of the video. I am a huge fan. So, for those of you at home, I am perhaps one of the biggest curators of early to mid 2000s nostalgia. And at least a notable segment of that early to mid 2000s nostalgia is Warner Brothers movies that are live-action adaptations of beloved children's cartoon series. Scooby Doo, Scooby Doo 2 Monsters Unleashed, Flintstones Viva Rock Vegas, Looney Tunes Back in Action, all that jazz. And I love these movies. Scooby Doo is no exception to that. Partially because of nostalgia, but I think looking at it even with a critical eye, I think these are incredibly underrated adaptations. And it's something we really need more of now. What I love about Scooby Doo is that it is an actual cartoon adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
They don't feel the need to have all this ridiculous lore building to make it seem as though it's very serious. They don't act like it's Lord of the Rings. The movie just starts and the gang already exists. This is not a sequel. This is the first in the series of movies. But they just know that you know who Scooby Doo is. They don't feel the need to try to reinvent it. They don't feel the need to try to turn it into a different movie than it is. They know exactly what it is. And it's literally just, they got a great crew of very talented actors that added the emotional depth that we need to these characters to be able to connect and relate to them. But outside of that, kept it just like a Saturday morning cartoon. I think the world of Spooky Island is so fun. I think they have incredible sets. The money they must have spent on building all these sets, whether it's the hotel or all the exterior sets for the island or the temple, or especially the theme park ride, the dark ride that they go through. I love that they fully embrace being ridiculous, whether it's like Daphne fighting a luchador on top of a volcano with a big ass lever that says vent on it to open up the vents. Or ridiculous Tasmanian devil-esque monsters that hop out of teenagers, or a huge concert with like 3,000 people with frosted tip hair and great choreography. It's a fun, ridiculous movie that knows exactly how to be a good cartoon adaptation and to not take itself too seriously, to be fun, but also sincere and genuine. I think it's a great time.
Yeah, one of the major things of note that I forgot to mention was like you said, like the design for Spooky Island is great. Like I remember like earlier today, like right after the airplane scene where they pan up and show you Spooky Island, like give you that nice wide shot, and like I just looked up and I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like still feeling that like that same way of like, wow, I would actually want this to be a real thing. Like it's a really cool concept. It's very nice thematically, and as like a as an amateur theme park enthusiast, I could appreciate that. Like you mentioned before, like it is an adaptation of a cartoon, and it does it really well. They put a lot of thought into it, obviously, and it shows.
There's never a point where you feel like the movie is stepping away from the source material because it's live action or taking place in like the quote real world.
And I think, if anything, it enhances the source material, especially when we're looking at the original Scooby Doo series. It's a little stiff. And this makes it feel so much more effervescent and energetic and vibrant. And I think there's a whole series of films, the Wachowski sisters, Speed Racer, it falls into this as well. Movies that are critically panned because the trend became any adaptation has to be, you know, a freaking like Saturday morning cartoon turned into Citizen Kane, or like it has to become this excellent movie in and of itself. But making a gritty Scooby-Doo movie, or making a serious Scooby-Doo movie, or making a Scooby-Doo movie that was anything besides a ridiculous zany cartoon world would be insincere to the source material and not entirely necessary at all.
Yeah. I had the thought when I was watching it that it almost feels like this movie and the live action Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie came out in the wrong, like should have come out in different decades.
Yeah.
Because the early 2000s was the time when the gritty reboot a la like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie was like all the rage. You saw that with X-Men and Spider-Man and all those kinds of movies. And then in the 2010s, we've had more of these, I feel like, sincere, genuine adaptations of source materials. And I almost wonder if both movies would have done better had they swapped the decade they came out in.
Overall, I would recommend this movie to anyone who is nostalgic or really loves 90s to early 2000s family films. It has some really good writing at times and funny gags that we didn't really cover that much.
Scooby Doo! Wait, won't you mean Melvin Doo?
The early 2000s does show a little bit, especially with some of the music choices and transitions, but the tone is really fun, and I do think it's kind of charming, and I think it's something that I would recommend in your Halloween watch list for something that's just fun and light and easy.
Charming is a great way of putting it. It's a fun movie. I liked it without nostalgia, so I mean, I'd recommend it as long as you're in the mood for like a family movie that's just kind of fun to watch.
I'm a big fan. I love this movie. I want to say, you should know what you're getting into when you get into it. If you've only seen recent adaptations of things, your Lego movies and stuff like that have worked very hard to try to revitalize source material, then I think you'll have the wrong expectations going in. But if you're really just looking for a direct adaptation that is a little bit more lively and is fun, and especially if you love the 2000s nostalgia like me, it's gonna be a really fun trip. There's some, as Jordan said, there's some great writing, beautiful sets. There's a lot of attention to detail put into it. Great performances, and you can tell people really enjoyed working with it. And I think it shines through, and I think you'd enjoy it as well.
Scooby Doo.
No one is stupid enough to believe that.
Who's the ugly old broad?
All right, cool. That wraps up episode 7. Yeah, no, that was a really fun episode, actually. Like, we had a lot to say about it. And
yeah. Hocus Pocus is up next, right?
That's
cool. I believe Hocus Pocus is up next. It's another fun family film, and that's going to fall into the same category of, like, 90s, early 2000s. I'm excited to talk about it. Anyway, like and subscribe, and thank you for dropping by. We'll see you next time, Cinema Simps. Bye.
Goodbye.
Let's get jinky.